We just got confirmation of something absolutely critical to the Ripple SEC case. In this video, we're going to talk about exactly what just happened because this has massive implications for the future designation of XRP. This is something we have been speculating on for a while on this channel, so I was extremely excited to get confirmation from Ripple themselves on this. In this video, we're going to talk about that, as well as go over some famous quotes from Ripple themselves at the end of the video, talking about just how much XRP can do to change the financial system. Guys, I think this is really going to let you know that a lot of the projections made by the XRP community really are backed up by some of the highest level members of Ripple. Like always, your support means so much to this channel. Thank you to everyone who takes the time to like these videos and subscribe to the channel. These two simple things really do help me out so much. Also, if you ever need a place to buy some XRP, make sure to check out my favorite exchange Uphold down in the description of this video. With that said, though, let's jump right into it, and I hope you guys enjoy the content. So earlier today, we actually just got a brand new interview from Stuart Alderoty, Ripple's legal counsel, and he dropped some bombs that everyone needs to be paying attention to. The first massive thing we learned in this interview from Stuart Alderoty is one of the assumptions I have been making on this channel was in fact correct. And that is that the SEC cannot appeal whether or not XRP is or isn't a security. What does that mean? Well, Judge Torres specifically stated in the Ripple SEC case that XRP, as a matter of fact, is not a security. There was a lot of debate all over X on whether or not the SEC would be able to appeal this. And just so you know, the reason that the SEC can't appeal this and why I thought they wouldn't be able to is because it wasn't actually in their initial complaint. What Judge Torres did was she said, regardless of what the SEC's claims were, regardless of Ripple's sales of XRP, I want to make it clear to all the XRP holders out there that XRP itself is not a security. Now, the reason this cannot be appealed is because it was not actually part of the SEC's initial complaint. They kind of tried to say it, then they kind of pulled back on it because they knew it was absurd. And in the process, they let Judge Torres know, hey, there is something here, and there is something here that retail investors need clarity on. Because of that, and because of people like John Deaton actually bringing XRP holders into the case, well, that made it absolutely clear that Judge Torres needed to address this issue. So what happened? Well, Judge Torres went out of her way to say, as a matter of fact, going forward, XRP is not a security. And because that was not an original issue brought up by the SEC, well, that can no longer be appealed by the SEC. Stuart Alderoty confirmed this train of thought earlier today. He said that as a matter of fact, the SEC cannot rehash this issue. So that means the law of the land going forward is that XRP will never be a security. One, I think this shows just how much appreciation we should have for Judge Torres, but not only Judge Torres for going out of her way to do this, but people like John Deaton for actually making sure to stand up for retail holders and make sure that we got a designation on XRP itself. If it wasn't for John Deaton, this issue would have probably never been brought up in the court, but because of him and because of Judge Torres looking out for retail investors, we now have unappealable certainty that XRP will never be a security. This is something I talked about a lot on the channel. It's something Jeremy Hogan has mentioned, and it's something that has really been slept on by the XRP community. But to see Stuart Alderoty actually confirm this and give us certainty that this is how it works, it's extremely exciting and shows just how big this win actually was. The other thing Stuart Alderoty mentioned in his interview that I thought was fascinating was that if the SEC was to appeal this case, they would have statistically a less than 10% chance of being successful. Every single appeal to the Second Circuit taken into account, less than 10% are successful. And when you take into account the fact that this is one of the worst cases we have seen in a very long time, it is extremely clear, and Judge Torres was extremely specific on her ruling, it probably makes it significantly less likely than that 10%. I would argue, based on how poor the SEC's case has been, and this has been something that's been stated on both sides, even hard advocates of the SEC has thought this has been a poor case by the agency. If you take that into account, I would argue there is probably less than a 3% chance the SEC would be successful on appeal. And just so you know, even if in the off chance the SEC got a judge who loved them and was just going to agree with the SEC no matter what, and they fell into that 3%, guess what? It is even more unlikely that they would win at the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court is a conservative court right now who has been extremely opposed to the SEC. If Ripple ultimately did lose at the Second Circuit and this went to the Supreme Court, there is pretty much a 0% chance the SEC would win there. That means even if the SEC wanted to appeal this case, ultimately it would end in a loss almost guaranteed for the agency. In my opinion, this has to be factored in to whether or not the SEC ultimately appeals this case. Because if they were to lose this case at the Supreme Court level, that is going to be a huge issue for the SEC's jurisdiction moving forward. Ripple is never going to allow this case to be over at the Second Circuit with a loss. They will always take it to the Supreme Court. And what we're learning now is not only are the SEC's chances extremely thin at the Second Circuit, but even worse at the Supreme Court level. I think this is another reason we have to think that the SEC is going to be hard-pressed to appeal this case. The only reason they would do so is to delay Ripple's products, to delay Ripple's success. And while that is certainly possible, I think the implications for the SEC as an agency are far more profound and far more significant than winning the single case. They have stronger cases out there. They have stronger cases in the court right now. This does not seem like, to me, the case they are going to want to pursue going forward. With that said, though, I want to move on to some famous quotes made about Ripple and XRP. This was a list put together by Ashley Prosper, and I just thought it was incredible. It really shows how integrated Ripple already is within the traditional system. And I actually don't know if I'm going to be able to get through all of these, but I want to read you a few because some of these names are people you probably didn't even know have ever even talked about Ripple and XRP. First of all, Brad Garlinghouse, XRP is a bridge currency. We believe it has the potential to reduce liquidity costs and enable faster, lower-cost cross-border payments. That one's obvious. This one's Christine Lagarde, president of the European Central Bank. Ripple is doing a lot of work in facilitating exchanges and making sure that there is no need for a central counterparty, but that we know exactly who is doing what and who is exchanging what. JP Morgan, if Ripple wins the SEC lawsuit, XRP is poised for significant adoption. Let me read that again. JP Morgan, if Ripple wins the SEC lawsuit, XRP is poised for significant adoption. Think about what we talked about earlier in this video. I don't think it could be more obvious that Ripple is going to win this case. Bank of America. Ripple's technology is attractive for its ability to settle cross-border transactions almost instantaneously. David Schwartz, XRP was designed to be a better Bitcoin. World Economic Forum, Ripple's XRP is one of the most scalable and efficient digital assets available for cross-border payments. This person's from IBM. Ripple's approach with XRP is interesting as it provides a digital asset that can settle in real time across multiple networks. SBI, one of the largest banks in Japan. XRP has the potential to become a global standard for digital currencies for cross-border transactions. Chris Larson, we're working with regulators, we're working with central banks. I think that's the most important part about our strategy, and this is something that I harp on all the time. It's the differentiator. It's what makes XRP different. They're working with the institutions, they're working with the regulators, and to hear Chris Larson, one of the creators of XRP and Ripple, say that's a core fundamental part of their strategy, absolutely cannot be ignored and highlights the importance of this part of their business. Christine Lagarde, once again, one of the most important people in the European banking sector. Ripple has addressed many of the issues associated with cross-border payments, particularly around speed, transparency, and cost efficiency. American Express. Ripple offers a compelling proposition in cross-border transactions, reducing settlement times from days to seconds. Bank of America. Ripple's solution can potentially bring substantial cost efficiency in our cross-border transactions. Guys, it keeps going. There are so many different potential major institutions who have already speculated on how critical Ripple and XRP could be to transforming their processes. Guys, I think when you read a list like this, and it just keeps going, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, all of these institutions fundamentally understand how critical this technology is to upgrading the financial system. And why are they saying these things? Because none of these people are in the business of upgrading the rails. They are all beneficiaries of upgraded rails. They know they shouldn't be paying 3% on a transaction. They know they shouldn't be waiting 3 to 5 days for a transaction to settle. But they have other businesses. They're doing other things. They don't have the technology expertise to change that. That is why they want Ripple to win. That is why ultimately XRP and Ripple working with these players is going to be the thing that makes a significant difference in mass adoption. These people understand the importance of the product. They have literally said it out loud. That's why I read you these quotes. What we're waiting on now is ultimately the clarity for these products to be adopted, because these institutions already understand it is absolutely what they need. Guys, thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. It really does mean so much. And for now, Mickle out.